Hey everyone, welcome to the investor.bet NRL round 17 try scorer preview. We have 15 try scorer bets this weekend, and in this video I'm going to run through each one of them and share with you based on statistics, trends, analytics, matchups, why these are the most likely try scorers this weekend. I'll also go through the odds and which company has the best odds for these selections. But most importantly, I want to share with you how I came to the conclusion of these players being the try scorers, because what you don't want to do firstly is back random try scorers and just pick somebody you think is going to score a try. There are ways you can make your selections a lot better by analyzing the statistics, how teams perform in terms of where they score their tries and where they concede their tries, both overall in the season and in recent matches. If you can find ones that match up, then you have a high likelihood of that player scoring a try, or at least getting many opportunities to score a try. Sometimes they don't end up scoring a try, but they have 2, 3, 4 genuinely good chances where they could have scored. And that's the kind of bet you want. You don't want to back the left winger in a game and then for 90% of the time when they're in the attacking zone, they're going to their right edge instead, as that's part of their game plan of that's where they're going to score the tries. So in these videos, we look at it that little bit deeper into what's the team's strategy likely to be based on how they've been playing recently and how their opposition has been playing as well, and try to target the weakness defensively of the opponent in that game. The way we do this in the first step is using the try scorer matchup tab from the NRL Bet Finders, which you can use for yourself in the link in the description. This is just one of about 25 different tools you can use to analyze NRL teams and their performances to make your bets each week. But this right here allows us to see for each game where the team scores their tries. So in this case, the Panthers by position and how many they average per game and where that ranks in the overall NRL. High rankings, they obviously score a lot of tries through that position in relation to the entire NRL. Low rankings here means they score very few. And then the tries against, this is where the Bulldogs concede their tries. High rankings in this column mean that team doesn't concede many tries to that position. They're strong defensively there. Low rankings like 17, 16, 15, 14 mean they concede a lot of tries in relation to the rest of the league through that position. What you're looking for is high rankings here up against low rankings here, and that'll give you a strong matchup. Then you can dive a little bit deeper into that. But I've already done the research for you, just like I do in the members area as well. Before we go through this week's selections, I just want to quickly share with you what happened last round. So in round 16, we had 14 try scorer selections. We landed at least one in every single game. So Tigers, Raiders, we backed Jed Stewart at the $1.93, missed on Hudson Young at the $2.40. Warriors, Panthers, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck didn't score, but Thomas Jenkins scored at $2.50. Dolphins, Knights, we went 2 players on the Dolphins in Jermaine Asako and Ham, who both scored. Rabbitohs, Storm, Alex Johnson got a 4-timer. We only needed him for 1 though. Jerome Hughes scored at the $2.90, and then Ryan Pappenhausen made another game where he didn't score. Broncos, Sharks, Shibasaki scored at $2.80, got a double. Sione Katoa didn't score and didn't help him getting sent to the sin bin either. Roosters, Cowboys, we only had Daniel Tupou to score for the Roosters, which he was able to get a try in that game for the Sydney Roosters. And then Eels, Titans, Cam Pereira at the $1.69 scored. Zach Lomax at the $1.83 didn't score. So a really good weekend overall. As I said, this week we've got 15 selections, starting with the Panthers Bulldogs game. Bulldogs currently small favorites for this game, but it sets up to be a really good game. And one of the games of the round, like this one, Broncos, Warriors, and Storm vs Sharks are your 3 like really good games this weekend. There are a couple of other interesting ones, like Knights Raiders sets up to be a somewhat interesting game as well. But starting with this one, we have 1 try scorer for each team. Firstly, for the Panthers, we're going to stick with Tom Jenkins, just like last week. He's $2.10 to score in this game, but he has a really good matchup on the left wing, 2nd versus 11th. This is where the Bulldogs concede the most tries of any position against them this season. They've conceded to the left winger in 4 of their last 6 games, including the last 2. Tom Jenkins has scored in 5 of his past 6 games for a total of 8 tries. And he's scored 4 tries in his last 2 games at CommBank Stadium. Only played against the Bulldogs once and didn't score in that game, but there's not a lot of data to go off from that perspective. And importantly, what I want to share with you, Panthers, their last 6 weeks, they've scored 10 tries on the left edge, so that's your left wing and left center combined, 10 tries, and then they've only scored 3 tries for the right center and right winger combined across the past 6 weeks. A lot of their attack is going to that left side. They're seeing success, and I think that will continue. That's the weaker side defensively for the Bulldogs as well. So at 210, Neds, Thomas Jenkins is the first selection. The right wing for the Panthers is an okay option. You got Brian Toho on that wing. They're basically, him and Jenkins are paying the same price. The reason I just went with Jenkins though is just with the stronger attack on that side recently, and that's also the Bulldogs' weaker side. Bulldogs have conceded to the right winger in 4 of the last 5 games, so these tries conceded to that right wing has gradually been increasing, and am definitely wary of that. Toe isn't the worst selection either, but they're both around the same price. They're the 2 shortest players in the market for the Panthers, so I'm only going to take one of them. Then for the Bulldogs, there's kind of 2 ways you can go here, and potentially mainly, I'll tell you what I'm doing, but I'll also give you an option for you to decide for yourself how you want to approach this, because I think all 3 of these players are good options, but I wouldn't back all 3, and I'm only going to back one of them. The one that I'm going to back is at the right center, and that is Stephen Crichton. Panthers have conceded to the right center in the last 2 games, and this is the position where they've conceded the most tries this season. Out of all positions, they also concede the most in the league to the opponent right center. Crichton has only scored in 2 of his 11 games this season, yet to score in the 1 game he's had against his old side in the Panthers. But at $3.15, happy to play him. That's at Sportsbet. There's not a lot of data here. It's mainly just due to the fact of old team he's facing, and he has a really good matchup at that right center position. Panthers give up the 14th most tries to the opponent's centers. They don't really give them up to wingers, so I'm happy to play around like Montoya and Carraz at the shorter odds and go for somebody at the longer price. The other option and the alternate options is taking the second row. So you've got 2nd versus 14th. The try scorers in the second row are William Kickout or Jacob Preston for the Bulldogs. Panthers have conceded to the second row in 3 of the last 5 games. Preston has scored in 3 of his last 4 games, and Kickout has scored in 3 of his last 5 games. They're both around that $3 to $3.20 price as well if you shop around. So one of those 3 players, I think they're all good options. Crichton is the way that I'm personally going to go, but I think you can't really go wrong with either of the 3. Jacob Preston would be my preferred choice between him and Kickout, just because he plays on the right side of the field, and that's the slightly weaker side for the Panthers defense compared to their right edge defense. So Thomas Jenkins, Stephen Crichton, the 2 plays in the opening game. Then we have the Seagulls versus West Tigers. 1 play for each side. Again, we're going with wingers this time around. So firstly, for the Seagulls, who this is a really important game for them. They are fairly heavy favourites for a side, considering how they have been playing their past couple of games against the Gold Coast and Newcastle. But back at home here after a couple of weeks on the road, and last time they were at home, they beat the Broncos. But for the Seagulls, we're going on the left wing. This is where the Tigers are worse defensively, and they concede the most tries in the competition to opponent left wingers. That is Tommy Talau. He's $1.87 at Bet365. The West Tigers have conceded to the left winger in the last 4 games straight, a total of 6 tries. The Seagulls left winger has scored in 3 of the last 5. They've had multiple positional changes through there. Tommy Talau has scored in 2 of his last 4 games, and this will be his first time against the Tigers. You see Manly do a lot of their attacking and scoring down that right edge of the field. The Tigers have the best left edge defense in the competition. They give up the least tries of any team. So I don't think Manly's going to have a great deal of success going that way. They've seen a bit more success recently than they did earlier in the year going to the left, and I think they can keep that up in this game, particularly on that left wing. That's where the Tigers are leaking those tries. I'm so happy to play Talau at $1.87. We're getting close to even money. I think is a fair enough price. In regards to the fullbacks, this is Tom Trbojevic. He hasn't really had the greatest season, that's for sure so far. The Tigers give up the second most tries to opponent fullbacks. They've conceded in 4 of the last 8 games to a fullback, and Trbojevic did score 3 tries last time he played the Tigers. But at the current prices, like he's hovering around the $1.80 mark, for me it's just too short to back him in his current form. So just going with Tommy Talau for the Seagulls, and then for the Tigers, on the right wing, Sania Taruva. The Seagulls give up the second most tries to opponent right wings. He's $2.05 at TAB. Manly have conceded to the right winger in 6 of their last 10 games, a total of 10 tries across those 10 games. Taruva has scored in 50% of his games this season, 7 of 14, and scored 10 total tries, and has scored in 2 of his last 3 games against the Seagulls for a total of 3 tries. Definitely expect the Tigers to push a lot of their attack to that right edge with Stafatoa and Taruva. Taruva is the way that I want to go. You'll notice here that Tigers are the number 1 right edge attack and 16th left edge attack, so they already heavily favor that right side. And then you add to that this is the worst side for the Seagulls as well, and they're actually very good at defending the opposite side of the field. When you're watching this game, you should expect the majority of the time when the Tigers are on the attack, they're pushing the ball to the right-hand side of the field for them. And Talau are the 2 plays. Talau's $1.87 at 365 and Taruva $2.05 at TAB. With the right center position, so this is Stafatoa, Tigers ranked first through that position, but the Seagulls have only conceded once in the last 6 games to the opponent right centers. That's also why I prefer the wing option. Knights versus Raiders. Just the one play in this game. I was close to taking one for the Knights. I'm just going to leave it this week. I just want to see how the kind of pattern with their scoring continues on. They've been a bit up and down. Raiders defensively were very good against the Tigers last week. I'm not going to play any. If you were to play one, it's probably left wing is the best option. That's James Schiller for the Knights. Raiders have conceded to the left wing in each of the last 4 games. The Raiders have conceded to the left winger in 3 of the last 4 games. Schiller, he's only scored in 5 of 14 games this season, which isn't too bad, but just doesn't have a strong scoring record for me to be taking $2.20 about him. Just with we want to see how Newcastle adjust here with Dominic Young back in the side on that right wing, as well as to which way they're favouring in their attacks. So we'll just give it another week or so with the Knights. For the Raiders, we're going to the right wing, and that is Xavier Savage. He's $1.83 at Bet365. Newcastle have only conceded to the right wing in 1 of the last 5 games, but this is still their weak point defensively. Aside from tries to the interchange bench, the right wing is the spot where they are conceding tries. Xavier Savage has scored in 3 of his last 6 games for a total of 5 tries and has scored in 2 of his 4 games against Newcastle. Wouldn't take under $1.80 for him. $1.83 at Bet365 I'm fine with. Don't think there's a huge amount of value, but he is definitely the most likely try scorer. Expect the Raiders to push a lot of their attack towards that right side, as the Newcastle Knights are the best at defending the opposite side of the field. That right edge defense of Newcastle, really strong, give up very, very few tries. And I don't think the Raiders will push a huge amount of attack. And like when you look at it, the fact that Jed Stewart, who's playing on that left wing, is a shorter price than Savage, I'm definitely happy taking Xavier Savage as the one selection in that game. Also, just one selection in the Broncos versus Warriors, and that's on the Broncos side of things, who are favourites for this game against the Warriors, who are coming off the loss last week. Broncos made it back-to-back wins. And we're going on the left wing. That's this spot here. Josiah Karapani, he's $1.91 at Bet365. Since he's come into the side, Jesse Arthurs has moved over to the right wing. So keep in mind, like, Jesse Arthurs scored a lot of these tries. It's giving them the number 1 ranking. Karapani's only come in for the last 2 games, but he has scored 4 tries across those 2 games, a double in each of them. And Warriors have conceded to the left wing in the last 3 games for a total of 5 tries. And also, if you go back, they've conceded to the left winger in 8 of their past 11 games. So there's some really strong trends favouring this side of the field. Broncos last week, Karapani got a double. Shibasaki at left centre got a double. Expect they'll look to continue that going. That's the weaker side for the Warriors as well. So it matches up really nicely. I am surprised we're getting $1.91 here, to be fair. Did expect this to be under $1.80, his price for. He's only had 1 game previously against the Warriors, didn't score in that, but you got to go back in time for that, and it's only 1 matchup. I really like him as one of the stronger try scorer selections this weekend. For the Warriors, I'm not going to play anyone this week. The reason for that is Broncos have been really inconsistent as to where they concede their tries, particularly recently. It hasn't been certain sides of the field or certain positions scoring. It's been an absolute muddle. And with the Warriors, like, they're in the same boat. They're not super consistent either as to where they score their tries. The right side is the way that I would be leaning. If Dallin Watene-Zelezniak was playing, then he was going to be a potential bet. The Warriors have conceded to the right wing in 2 of the last 4 games for a total of 4 tries. But without him, Edward Cozzy comes into that right wing position. But I don't want to play him in this game, so I'm just going to go with no selections for the Warriors this week. Dragons versus Eels. Interesting game this. They met earlier on in the season. It was a 23-22 scoreline that went to Golden Point. Dragons are favourites for this game. We have one play on each side though. Firstly, for the Dragons, we're playing the left winger. That's the 6th versus 16th ranking. The Eels give up the second most tries to opponent left wingers. Christian Tuipulotu, he's at $1.75 at Bet365. The Eels have conceded to the left winger in each of the last 4 games for a total of 6 tries. Tuipulotu has scored in 4 of 6 games that he's played this year for a total of 7 tries. He scored 6 tries in his last 5 games at Wynn Stadium and has scored in 4 of his last 5 games against Parramatta. So some really strong trends favouring this matchup. The Eels haven't been conceding as much to the right-hand side of the field, so that right wing position, which is Corey Allen this week. They've only conceded to the right wing in 1 of the last 4. Expect the Dragons to push left. They've had a lot of success doing that, particularly when Tuipulotu's in the side. Then you've got Valentine Holmes playing that left center position, which generates a lot of attention. Just expect that Tuipulotu will score in this game, or at least just get plenty of chances, that's for sure. Then for the Eels, there's kind of 2 ways you can go here, I feel, and that's either the fullback or in the halves. Isaiah Iongi, Dragons have only conceded though in 1 of the last 5 games to the opponent fullback. It was 6 of 8 prior to that. So early on in the season, Eels were giving up plenty of tries and consistently week to week to the fullback. It's eased up a little bit lately, so that 17th ranking, whilst looks bad on paper, isn't as bad over the last month or so. So I'm going to go in the halves here and I'm going to play Dylan Brown. He's $4.25 at Bet365. Dragons have conceded to a half in 4 of the last 5 games for a total of 5 tries, and they did give up 3 tries, if you go back a little bit further than that, to the Roosters game in round 7. So about the last half of the season, or their last half games this year, they've been giving up a lot of tries to opponent halves. The Eels halves have scored in 5 of the last 7 games, so Parramatta are scoring tries through their halfback and 5/8. Dylan Brown has scored in 3 straight games between rounds 9 and rounds 11. Hasn't scored in his last 3 though, but still fairly consistent. Still 3 of his last 6 if you just highlight the last 6 games. And he has scored in 2 of his past 4 versus the Dragons. And that's enough for me to take $4.25. And remember, with the try scorer selections and how you back them, you want to back them all to win the same amount. So what that means is you're adjusting your staking depending on the odds that you're getting for the try score, and you always want to shop around and get the best possible odds. That's why I share with you which company at the time of recording has the best odds, and so then you're getting the best price, and then that'll mean you can have the lowest stake to win the same amount instead of having more on. So if you're backing every selection to win 1 unit, say, if you're getting better odds, you don't need to have as much on to win a unit. And then what this also achieves is it means that the players that are bigger odds and less likely to score a try, you're not risking as big a stake on them. Where the player is more likely to score a try, you're having a bigger stake on them to win the same amount. What this also means is in a game, if we've got 2 selections, if the player at shorter odds scores a try of the 2, then you're guaranteed profit in that game. Unless both selections are under $2, in that case, then you would need both of them to score to generate a good profit. But it's not super often we have 2 players at shorter prices. Generally only if we have 2 wingers in a game and they're both at short odds. But that's generally very unlikely to be the case. It only happens on certain games throughout the year, and generally only games where I'm expecting a lot of points. It's usually fine conditions, day games, teams with bad defenses and good attacking ability. But in this game, we're going Tuipulotu and Dylan Brown. Then Dolphins versus Rabbitohs. 2 plays in this game. They're going to both be on the Dolphins side. Firstly, we're going at fullback. We're sticking with Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow. He's $1.91 at Bet365. This is his 100th game in his career. So a milestone game for him. The Rabbitohs have conceded to the fullback in 2 of the last 4 games, so this average is increasing. Tabuai-Fidow has scored in 7 of his last 9 games for a total of 11 tries. Has only scored in 1 of the last 4 versus Rabbitohs, but in his current form should get opportunities to score, and we're getting close to even money, so I think it is a good bet. Then also in the halves for the Dolphins, you see here the Rabbitohs give up the most tries of any team to opponent halves, averaging 1 per game on the season. The Rabbitohs have conceded to a half in the last 4 games straight for a total of 5 tries. Cody Nicarima has scored in the last 3 games, so he's going to be the player that we're going to back. He's at $4.50 at Neds to score in this game. In those past 3 games, he's scored 3 tries. Probably should have been 4. There was one of them where he gave the handoff to Herbie Farnworth. Farnworth could keep his try-scoring streak going. So really should have been 4 tries. Has scored in 3 of his last 4 games at Suncorp and has scored in 2 of his last 3 games against the Rabbitohs. So at $4.50, there's a lot of stats and trends favoring that selection. So very happy to make him the other selection there. For the Dolphins, for the Rabbitohs, no try scorers for them this week. We know they only go to the left side virtually ever in attack, and it doesn't really set up that well for them this week. The Dolphins are a lot stronger right edge defense than they are a left edge defense, and they concede majority of their tries on that side of the field, which doesn't suit the Rabbitohs in the way they attack. So for Johnston to score, he's got a tough matchup this week on the left wing, and we know he just scores the majority of the Rabbitohs' tries. Their whole attack is virtually set up around getting him the ball to finish in the corner. It's not a great situation for him this week, so I'm not going to play it. I think Rabbitohs need to sort out their right edge. They have an opportunity to do that against the Dolphins and potentially find points, get Tyrone Monroe and Co on that side of the field a bit of confidence up. They got to try in the last game through him, but I don't know if it's going to really happen, and they may just continue going left because they have seen some majority of their success with it. It just doesn't suit against the Dolphins. No plays there for the Rabbitohs. Then Storm Sharks got 3 in this game, starting with the Storm left wing. Xavier Coates is the first selection. You'll notice this is where the Sharks leak all their points. They're a lot better on the left edge and defending that side of the field, but their right edge defense has been really weak. So we're going with Xavier Coates. He scored a hat-trick earlier this season, just back in round 11. Wasn't really that long ago against the Sharks. He's $1.83 at Bet365. Sharks have conceded to the left wing in 4 of the last 7 games for a total of 9 tries. Xavier Coates has scored in 6 of 11 games this season, and he has scored, if you add him up, 7 tries in 7 games against the Sharks. He scored in 4 of the 7 games. At $1.83, I think, is a really good bet. And that's the shortest selection we have in this game. I think there'll be point Storm afternoon games, a high-scoring Sharks. Their last 5 games have gone over. I'm happy playing 3 players here. Then sticking with that side of the field, left center for Melbourne. This is where the Sharks concede the most tries of any position. And you've got Grant Anderson, who's $2.65 at Bet365. Nala have conceded to the left center in 4 of their last 6 games for a total of 6 tries. Grant Anderson has scored in 7 of 12 games this season for a total of 10 tries and did score in that game earlier this year against the Sharks. Expect the Storm to really use that left edge. It's really a weak point for the Sharks. I mentioned when we spoke about the Broncos that the Broncos scored 2 tries through the left center and 2 through the left wing last week. You can guarantee Melbourne saw that and aware of that and expect them to target it. Would be very surprised if neither of these 2 players score for Melbourne. Then for the Sharks, we know they have a lot of success at left center. Talakai has come in to replace Hiroti and Kale Iro, who are now both injured, and he did score against the Broncos. But the Storm, whilst they rank poorly, have only conceded to the left center in 1 of the last 6 games. So I'm going to go left wing for the Sharks. That's Ronaldo Mulitalo. He's $2.30 at Sportsbet, actually. Storm have conceded to the left wing in 6 of the last 8 games for a total of 9 tries. Mulitalo has scored in 3 of his last 5 games. Has scored 5 tries in 7 games against the Melbourne Storm and scored 3 tries in his 4 games at Amy Park. So he's the most likely try scorer, I think, for the Sharks. Katoa is back on that right wing, but I think Sharks on that left edge, this is the weak spot. Storm can see the most tries of any team on that side of the field. So expect the Sharks to try to attack that and push their attack towards that left-hand side of the field. And Talakai, whilst he's not generally like in the left center position, is definitely difficult to tackle, and that does open up room for Mulatalo as well. As Talakai is not like a noted try scorer, whereas Kale Iro was constantly finding the line, and that was causing Mulatalo to miss as many opportunities as he may have had. So I think this is a good situation for him to score against this Storm side. And then final game of the round, Titans versus Cowboys. We've got one for each side here, and there is a bit of like confusing team lineup news. Run through that when we get to the Cowboys. But for the Titans, happy sticking with Alefiana Khan Pereira. He's $1.67 at Bet365. That is the left wing matchup here. Cowboys have conceded to the left winger in 4 of the last 5 games for a total of 7 tries. 9 of their last 13 games they've conceded to the left winger of the opponent. Khan Pereira has scored 2 tries in each of his last 3 games, so double in each. 6 total tries. He's scored in 2 of 3 games previously against the Cowboys for a total of 3 tries. Is a little bit short at the $1.67. I really wouldn't want much shorter than this, but Cowboys have been leaking points like crazy over the past month or so. We know Khan Pereira is a very consistent try scorer. I can definitely understand the price. Then for the Cowboys, we're going right center, I'm assuming, as that's where Jackson Perdue has been listed to play. It is confusing just because before going into the halves, he was playing left center. And they have Zach Labour in the side as well, so not sure which side of the field he's going to play on. But $2.50, I'm happy to play him regardless. Reason being is the Titans give up the most tries to opponent centers, ranked 15th to the left center and 17th to the right center. So I am kind of hoping he plays on that right side of the field. To the right center, the Titans have conceded in 4 of the last 5 games for 7 tries, including the last 3. And for the left center, if he does play on the left, they've conceded in 3 of the last 4 games for a total of 5 tries. Has scored in 6 of his 8 games when playing at center, and did score in his only game against the Gold Coast Titans. $2.50, regardless what side of the field he plays on. We've got good stats backing up either one, but he's just going to be the one selection for the Cowboys. Their attack's been struggling lately. They have Dearden and Clifford back in the halves this week, which I think does help them, and they're also playing the worst defensive side. So I'm okay playing a selection for the Cowboys, even though they've struggled to score lately. To recap all the selections, we'll run through them from the first game to the last. Panthers, Thomas Jenkins, 210. Bulldogs, Stephen Crichton at 315 at Sportsbet. Jenkins is with Neds at the 210. Seagulls, we're going with Tommy Talau at $1.87 at Bet365. Sania Taruva at $2.05 at TAB. Knights versus Raiders, just the one play for the Raiders. That's Xavier Savage at $1.83 at Bet365. Broncos Warriors, going with Josiah Carney, $1.91 at Bet365 for the Broncos. Dragons Eels, one for each side. Dragons, we have Christian Tuipulotu, $1.75 at Bet365. And for the Eels, Dylan Brown at $4.25 at Bet365. Dolphins, Rabbitohs, 2 for the Dolphins. In the halves, Cody Nikarima at $4.50. And then Hamiso Tabuai at $1.91 at Bet365. Storm, Sharks, Storm, Xavier Coates, $1.83 at Bet365. And Grant Anderson, also at Bet365. He's $2.65. And for the Sharks, Ronaldo Mulatalo at $2.30 at Sportsbet. For the Titans, we're going with Alefiana Khan Pereira, $1.67 at Bet365. And for the Cowboys, Jackson Perdue, $2.50 at TAB. Those are all 15 selections for the games this weekend. Good luck if you're following along. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Make sure you check out the game-by-game betting trends preview and predictions video that's already posted to the channel. That'll go through each matchup and some of the stats and betting history between those two sides. It's really good information if you're tipping on the games, or especially if you're betting on the games. Like, you really always want to have as much information as you can before placing a bet, and that's kind of what separates people who make money from betting and people who lose money betting. It comes down to how they decide of what bets they put on, and then how they manage that money off the bets that they're putting on. And the majority of people that I talk to who've been losing money betting, a lot of the time is just due to the fact they're missing a lot of information, and they're betting from either emotion or just effectively intuition or things that they remember from watching teams play. And the betting companies love that. That's exactly how they want you to bet, particularly the emotion thing. They want everyone betting from emotion. And if you are doing that and you're able to change it and just put a stop to it and make adjustments with how you're betting, then you can start actually making money and withdrawing money from your betting accounts. So my goal with creating InvestorBet and starting this channel is to help as many people as I can do that. Really appreciate you guys watching and following along on the channel. We're betting the NRL every week, so there's going to be more videos like this coming throughout the season. So make sure you're subscribed. If you want to see everything, I'm fully betting on all these games and see additional previews, have access to all the analytics you need to bet the NRL properly. The link to that is in the description. You can also follow my bets on other sports. Right now, the 3 sports we're betting right now is NRL, AFL, and baseball. So on the weekends, we've got the NRL, AFL, and then every day during the week, we're betting the baseball. So it's generally 2 to 3 bets per day. Season right now is going really well. It's still a long way to go. Then also on the weekends and Wednesdays, we bet horse racing, which horse racing, if you want to grow your bankroll really quickly, is the best way to do it. If you're solely looking at betting, sports betting as how can I make money from doing this, horse racing is the best thing to start with because it's going to generate you the most profit in the shortest amount of time. Coming up in October, we'll create 4 years since I started the racing show, where I created a platform and share with everybody what horses I'm backing on Wednesdays and Saturdays and any public holiday meetings. And I share a video similar to this of why I'm backing each one of those horses. Since doing this for 4 years, we're averaging just under 10 units profit per week across those 4 years. That's over 200 weeks just about. Every week, if you just purely go on averages, just under 10 units, and we just round it at 10 units. If you're betting $50 units, meaning your maximum bet is $100, then you're making $500 per week on average. If you're betting $100 units, so your max bet is $200, and we only have a few max bets. Like today, we didn't even have any bets over our minimum stake, but if you're betting $100 units, that's it'll be just under $1,000 per week on average if you follow it consistently. And all you have to do is log in, see the selections, and go put them on your betting account. So it's really easy to follow along. Plus, you're learning of why I'm choosing these selections. So if you're already betting on horse racing, or you're just thinking about how can I make money from my betting accounts, definitely check that out. I'll put the link to the racing show in the description. Also, on the website, you can go through and look at the results every week, every month, historically for the racing. And there's the page that has every single horse I've ever backed as part of the racing show that's contributed to those results. So everything's there for you guys to look at and see if it's right for you. Thanks, guys, for watching. Good luck with all your bets. Hope you guys have a winning weekend. I'll see you in the next video.